This week on Unconventional Lives, we're talking about intimacy as we age.
Nice. Will there be examples?
Good idea. I'll get out the whiteboard and maybe the flannel board.
Super not sexy.
Said no teacher ever.
Let's go. Hey, I'm Craig.
And I'm Kellie.
Join us as we share unfiltered, empowering conversations about love, marriage, fitness, travel, and living boldly.
Tune in as we prove you can have it all and live an unconventional life. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah, we're glad to be back. Glad to be back.
Absolutely.
We're back.
We are back.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks.
It has been.
Yeah, we've been all over the place. We had guests at our house. Well, she's not a guest. She's actually our daughter.
Yeah.
So our daughter just left yesterday. She came into town with her roommate from Nashville. And they went to go see a show at Red Rocks. And in typical Red Rocks, Colorado, crashed here, but typical Colorado fashion, they got drowned like wet rats.
Yeah, drenching rain the entire concert.
Yeah, always never know what you're going to get at Red Rocks. Bring it all, whatever you got.
Part of the experience.
Yeah.
Springtime in the Rockies.
Yeah, and then we were
super fun.
We were 5 days. We went to go visit some friends in St. George. They have a beautiful home there.
St. George, Utah.
It's nice and warm. We always try to escape this time of year.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. We had a great time.
Yeah.
And but we discovered something super weird.
Super unusual.
And you knew about it going into it.
I had heard about this phenomena on a show I had watched, and I asked them about it, and they confirmed it.
Well, what was the show? It was The Mormon Wives.
It was
Real
Secret
Life.
Lives of Mormon Wives.
Yes.
Had to watch it.
For the record, we both didn't watch that.
No, I just watched it because, I was curious, and it was like watching a train wreck. So
I think I watched about 2 minutes, if that, as I was passing through the room and went, that's stupid.
Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. But, if you're a fan and you follow them on TikTok, whatever,
but it was
their
interesting,
show, whatever, that's great.
You even said, when you were talking, you were kind of debriefing me on the show afterwards, and you were like, it's crazy the amount of soda they drink. So I guess as a Mormons, you can't have
caffeine.
No, you can't have coffee.
That's right. You cannot
but
have
you can
coffee.
have soda, and they drink soda by the bucket.
By the bucket.
I mean, like 40, 50, 60 ounces.
Yes, at a time,
soda.
multiple times during the day.
So yeah, as you drive around town, there are it's like they have coffee shops.
They do have coffee shops,
which is strange, but they have these soda drive-throughs.
And there's soda shops.
There is always people like in line, buying these dirty.
They're called dirty sodas. They're famous for dirty sodas, which I guess is just an added syrup plus cream. So I guess this one soda shop, it's called Swig, I guess is one of the originals. That founder was the original, patent that came up with a dirty Dr. Pepper or something like that. And it has something to do with some syrup they add into it and cream. And these soda places are everywhere. And it's just crazy popular.
But it has to be like thousands of calories. It has to be stupid amounts of
calories. And just the amount of sugars and
you couldn't feel good after drinking that much soda. And then you take soda and then you put like coffee creamer or like super sweet creamers and then lime and
all different sprinkles and just all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's just so foreign to us. We've never experienced it, but I guess it's really common in Utah. So if you've ever experienced it, let us know down in the comments of what your favorite combination is, because we're intrigued by this whole thing of mixing flavors and all of that.
Well,
fun
our
stuff.
friends,
So,
he drinks diet soda, Diet Coke. And so he takes Diet Coke and he puts the Coffee Mate creamer
and lime.
And you tried it.
Yeah, it was rich. It was really rich and
it seems
interesting. So
you would think in this day and age, like that would not be like a super good healthy option.
It is super popular there and growing. they're popping up everywhere, those drive-thrus. It's crazy. And then the food option they have there is literally just cookies, sweet cookies, sugar cookies, and little pretzel bites, apparently. Huh. We never went to one. We just drove by them.
But they're on every corner.
They're on every corner.
And there's always line. It's sort of like Dutch Brothers here. If everyone, Dutch Brothers is a coffee chain here, and it's this. I think it actually may have started.
I don't know where Dutch started.
Wherever it started, but it like their stuff's like our kids love it, but it's like candy,
super candy.
It's super like. Yeah. Actually, the first time I always, if I'm going to have a little cheat, I'm going to have a mocha, and I kind of I thought that was. Those are nice. A little chocolate syrup just gives a little something in there. And one day, it's never a good plan to watch somebody make something you shouldn't be eating. It's the original for me was fettuccine Alfredo. Used to love fettuccine Alfredo. Like anytime I went to an Italian restaurant, I ordered fettuccine Alfredo. And then one day I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make fettuccine Alfredo. So I looked up a recipe for it and I was like, holy hell, this is horrible.
Right.
I never enjoyed it after that.
Your dream was dashed.
I know. So it was like, one day I went to Dutch Brothers and I ordered a mocha and I'm watching the young lady make it and she grabs like a gallon of chocolate milk. And she fills up the cup with chocolate milk and then puts coffee and some whipped cream. I'm like...
And chocolate syrup, I think.
And chocolate syrup, yes. So I was like, crap. I shouldn't have watched that. I should have looked away. I should have averted my eyes so that I didn't have to know what's in it. Now I haven't had one since.
Right.
So maybe that's a good plan. Here's Craig's piece of advice for the day. If there's something that you really, really love... Either watch somebody else make it with all the ingredients or make it yourself.
Right.
And you're like, crap.
Right.
You won't ever want to eat it again. That works for me.
Right.
I don't know why it works for me.
Just not knowing the ingredients is like, ignorance is bliss is what that phrase is.
Ignorance is bliss. Absolutely. I'm good with that. I mean, we don't do that much anymore. You can't.
The what?
You can't. But the ignorance, we don't do.
No, I don't
kind of stick our head in the sand.
Ignorance. Yeah, no.
Although, like I said, our daughter was here and she was here with her roommate. They went to a concert, but and so of course we had to go buy food for our kids. So we ended up buying like coconut macaroons. And
we did, huh? We did.
Well, because when our daughter, both our kids, either one of our kids here or both here, they're always like, "There's nothing to eat in this house."
Right.
And so then they go out and they eat crappy stuff at wherever they eat crappy stuff at.
And that's fine with me.
It's not fine with you.
It is fine with me because then the food's not in my house.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of food here.
I got some coconut macaroons, which we've had those before for the record.
We have.
And who bought them the first time?
I did because they were a good sample. But.
And then I got some potato chips.
Yeah.
They were on sale.
Oh my gosh.
I got 2 bags because it was buy one, get one free.
Oh my gosh.
And so I got 2. They're not the big bags of potato chips. They were the smaller.
Right. Is that justification through rationalization?
Well, it is, but I was, it's for the kids. It's for the baby.
Sure.
So,
okay. You keep telling yourself that, whatever.
Yeah. So, and then we've had we actually have had we're doing a lot of updates here in the front because we've been gone for a couple of weeks. For Mother's Day, my wife wanted
bird feeders. I wanted to add bird feeders to my garden, in my backyard.
Yes. So she let our kids know.
Mm-hmm. And my children each got me a bird feeder.
Each got her a bird feeder.
Day.
So we had 2.
We're so happy.
And then you have a friend who's also a bird nerd.
She's a birder.
A bird nerd. Mm-hmm. And she turned you on to an app.
Oh my gosh.
That you can just walk around with the app on.
It's called Merlin. If you are a bird lover or want to be a bird lover, bird nerd, I'm embracing that because I love it.
Yes.
It's called Merlin and it's in the App Store. It's free. And it is so great because it will record wherever you are in the world. You could download regional kind of lists of birds.
Shut up.
Yeah. It's worldwide. So you're not going to.
Now we have one more reason to travel.
I know, right?
Listen to birds all over the world.
So you turn on the recording section of it and it listens for birds in the area and it will bring them up on the screen and then it highlights them. If there's multiple birds going on, we'll highlight the ones that it's hearing. And then you can click on it for more information. You can save your recordings. Oh my gosh, it's so uber fun.
Yeah.
It's a plant. I mean, not a plant. It's a bird ID system, either from audibly identifying it, or visual. You can take a picture and upload it.
But here's the thing we've come to conclude. Here's Craig's simple conclusion on this. In Colorado Springs in particular, we have like 4 birds.
No.
We do.
In our neighborhood, we don't have that many.
We have that many birds. So you always like, oh, I hear a bird. And I'm like, it's a finch, babe. And she's like, how did you know? I was like, because we listen to the same finch every day.
Well, that's why I wanted bird feeders in my backyard to bring in new birds.
No. So we have, and then it's the other one. The other one, it makes a very distinct noise. And it's like, she's like, oh, what's that? I'm like, that's a red-winged blackbird. And I'm like, yeah, it's the same red-winged blackbird that was here yesterday.
Right.
She's like, ooh. But now you've also put up a hummingbird feeder.
I have again this year, and I had my very first hummingbird in several years on this feeder 2 days ago. And I'm super excited because now there's going to be more.
So at this point in the show, anyone under the age of 70 has just tuned out.
No, there are birders out there. So if you're a birder, shout out to my birder friends.
Her bird nerd.
My bird nerd friends. And just, we can just bird out in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Share bird stories.
You know what? You can send that to Kellie at UnconventionalLives.com and you can have you can DM her.
Right. You can DM me all you want about birds.
Because if you put it in the comments, I have to read it too.
Oh my goodness.
So let's keep the bird nerd comments offline.
Right. Okay. So speaking of comments.
This is a
comment that you are more than happy to receive. Why don't you tell us about that, Craig?
I got my first gym bro compliment.
You did.
It was so exciting.
I think you were a little taken aback by the whole thing. I really kind of was.
There was a guy, younger guy.
He was pretty ripped too.
He was in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And we were they're called landmines. So it's where you sort of take a barbell, put one end in a little holder, and then you just sort of hold one end and weight it, and then hold one end and rotate it from side to side. Well, so I look over and he's doing it, and he's just holding the bar.
Yeah, he didn't have any added weights to it.
And I had 60 pounds on it.
Yeah.
And I was doing
plus
it.
The bar weight.
Plus the bar, yeah. And I was doing it, and we did three sets of 10. And the dude walks over, he goes, that's legit.
He's like, he goes, pretty impressive.
I was just doing the bar.
Yeah.
I look over, and you got 60 pounds on there. I'm like, oh, yeah.
You didn't really even know how to respond.
I didn't know how to respond. I'm like,
okay.
Thanks, my new gym bro. Here's the effed up part about the whole thing. So fast forward another week, I'm like, I'm going to do another 60 pounds on there. Totally effed up my back yesterday. I was doing it. I'm like, I'm like, oh, and Kellie's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I just pulled something in my back. Yeah. And so I finished. I had one more set to do after this one. I did it. And then last night I'm laying in bed, like, barely able to breathe.
Well, you were moaning. I was washing my face and brushing my teeth, and I kept hearing the and I'm like, babe, are you okay? You're like, yeah. And then you do it again, and I'm like, I don't know. Either you're having a really good dream in there, or just in a lot of pain. And I'm like,
back was killing me.
So I had to.
So yeah, you climbed up my back and fortunately,
massaged his back,
the crap out of my back, because I was like,
really.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad my gym bro wasn't here to see that.
That was hysterical.
He'd have been like, "Are you okay, old guy? Can I help you can I help you set that down?"
Glad he saw you on your peak performance.
On my best day, not my worst day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
When he sees me next time, I'll have 10 pounds on.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. But I got gym bros now.
Yep. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Glad you have
so I think maybe I was showing off more for you than anything else. So
that's okay.
All right. So those are all our updates.
Right.
I feel like they're all up to date on our goofy little world.
I know,
right now, and we're back, and
we're back.
We are
excited. Excited for summer.
Excited for summer. We're excited for
warm weather, sundress weather. I'm super excited.
We're a month away from going to Mexico for a week to a resort, and we're just gonna soak up some sun and relax. So
super fun.
I gotta get back up to 60 pounds on my back on my on my landmines. Now I know why they call them landmines. It's like because it goes off and takes you out. So this week we are talking about intimacy, and we've had a lot of people, a lot of comments, a lot of people ask us questions about this, and we feel like it's a topic that a lot of people talk about, but I think they talk about it in the context of I don't know. It seems like on my Instagram or my any other feed, it's like always. It seems like it's always about young guys trying to like how to bag a girl, how to get a girl, how to be the ultimate guy. And it's like, well, I don't want any of that. I don't need any of that.
That's interesting that you said that you think a lot of people talk about intimacy as they age, and I actually think the contrary. I think that a lot of professionals will talk about it, but I don't think the everyday people, they don't talk about it.
No,
with their friends, their close, girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, or even their partners. I think it's a very hush hush topic, and I think that based on our experience, I just feel like it needs to be talked about way more.
I agree.
Way more.
And I think,
and
we've talked about this in other shows.
The taboo about the whole thing.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's sometimes obviously it's taboo, and we're going to talk a little bit about some taboo subjects, but also it has a lot to do with, first and foremost, it has a lot to do with hormones. A lot of times by the time you get to our age, like your hormones are kind of flatlined, and the expectation is, you're not talking about this anymore. You're not, right. Sex isn't a normal, it's part of your relationship. It's sort of like, the good old days.
It's kind of like an afterthought.
It is. So, the first thing for us is going to be hormone replacement therapy, but finding somebody that does bioidentical hormones. Yeah. I can't tell you how many couples we've talked with and met with and worked with who have done bioidenticals and have just completely changed their relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's a big thing. Kind of, you gotta like throw some wood in the fire to get things going there. So, the other thing I think that happens a lot is intimacy just tends to slip down the list as we get older. Mm-hmm. I think we get into our 50s, especially once we get to empty nesters, and it's like, okay, we're on the final run before we retire. How much money can we make? How can we maximize our careers? Intimacy goes out the window. Yeah. I think when you don't have hormones in check, your weight gain, and you just start
mood swings.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly socially acceptable to, just age and then, plan a trajectory to sit on the couch and relax and not have to work hard. But I think it's socially acceptable. Okay. No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying it's socially acceptable.
Oh, absolutely.
To, put on weight. And,
culture says that that's fine because you're at a stage in your life where you've worked so hard and you deserve whatever, fill in the blank. Most humans, that's just human nature, will do the path of least resistance. Yeah. It's just easier. It's easier. And I mean, there's, that's just the way it is.
But the great part is once you get to this age, especially once you have that empty nest and your kids are gone, or you have the resources to have a great time, go out, do things,
have adventures, explorations,
pour back into each other. Yeah. Go out and reinvent each other, yourselves, and then reinvent your relationship.
Sure.
I think that's way easier than the alternative, which we see a lot, which is we're done. And we go and try and restart or rebuild a new life with another partner or be single, which I can't imagine being single at 50. It seems like I feel bad for our kids single in their 20s because it's really difficult nowadays. I'd have to learn another app. Right. I wouldn't know which. I would mess up on the swipe all the time. I'm sure, like the swipe right or swipe left. I would screw that up, and then I would never.
However that works.
Meet anybody. Right. So, what are the things for you? If you've found things that have reignited your intimacy, we're going to go through some of ours. We'd love you to put them in the comments, and,
absolutely,
or text them, or email, or DM us, or however you want. Smoke signals.
Yeah, share them with the community. I mean, everyone's going to benefit from that, so we appreciate that.
Yep. So we talked about it, hormone testing. I don't think we can do an episode without hormone testing. If you really want to have that intimacy, find the fountain of youth. It's here. It's called hormone replacement therapy, and find somebody that does bioidentical hormones. And
I wish I had done them decades before my 50s.
It is funny you say that because I always think like, well, did you really need it then?
I do believe that I needed. I don't believe my hormones were at their ideal levels early on in our marriage. I mean, there's the tired factor of raising kids and all of that, but I really do believe that I could have had some assistance with that
in the 40s. Yeah,
in the 40s.
And I don't think we,
30s and 40s.
30s
actually.
and 40s were, our love life was good.
Yeah.
It wasn't, we've never had any issues, but it was never like as spicy as it is today.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. I just didn't have the response or the desires that I do now back then. And I didn't even really know that that was even an option.
Well, and I think the expectation is, even as a guy, like we all have those. I don't feel like, I never felt like our love life, our sex life was lacking.
No.
But but looking back in retrospect, compared to where we're at today.
Oh, sure.
It's like, dang, we were like a couple of nuns.
I know. There was, my sex drive was very, very low.
Well, I say for both of us. I guess
so,
low is all relative. A lot of times it's just, we're tired. I remember just being tired all the time because with kids, you were just like, can we just But
there were some other things that I just, intimacy related, I just had no frame of reference because I was never really taught about intimacy between a man and a woman or husband and wife, because those are two totally different things, really.
Yeah.
And I was never taught or communicated about. I just learned it all from in the environment, like this, society. I didn't even talk with my girlfriends about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just all from society and commercials and movies and books. And it just wasn't, I was very naive about sexuality in general, sexuality, intimacy, all of that. I was just very naive about it, and no fault to, to my, my mom or my parents or anything like that. I don't hold anything against them for not, teaching me about the birds and bees, whatever. But I think knowing what I know now, I wish even a doctor had said, how's your sex life? How's your sex drive? How's your intimacy with your partner or your husband? And I could hopefully at that point in time feel comfortable enough to open up maybe and just say, whatever. I just it wasn't even on my grid that it is perfectly normal to have a sex drive or to desire to have sex or to enjoy sex. I thought in my head that women aren't supposed to enjoy sex. It's just something that they do as married people.
For procreation.
For procreation. And, as long as we, had sex once a week, I was a great wife. And no one ever said to me, no, it's totally fine. You should be wanting to have sex. You should be really enjoying sex. I enjoyed sex whenever we had sex, and I, would have orgasms, but it wasn't a drive of mine like it is now. It's just completely different. And I'm sad that I wasn't able to experience that with you this entire time. We're having a great time now, but I just think that it should be different for young married women.
I'm not sure that I'd be alive right now.
Maybe not.
If we were having sex like this 30 years ago, I'd probably be either dead or in a wheelchair.
Right.
Like you'd have broke my back.
Probably.
Yeah. That's the only reason I have to go to the gym now.
Right.
Well, and it's also...
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's also interesting that we didn't do a great job, I don't think, trying to convey that to our children.
Well, no, because we raised them in a very conservative Christian household.
Yeah.
And philosophies, and which there's nothing wrong with those, but I think there's a missing piece that has to be discussed, and that's intimacy, and not just modesty and I don't even know how to describe it. I just think that there needs to be way more openness and less, it's taboo, we can't talk about it. It's just between your husband and you. Well, if they're not being taught how to talk about intimacy and you're not being taught how to talk about intimacy, then
Yeah. Nobody's talking about
intimacy. So,
but I think we've also corrected for that to a degree. I mean, it's actually really interesting now because our kids do call us for advice on on relationships and sex and it takes a minute to get used to.
It does take a minute.
It's like, whoa, okay, we got this. But it's also great to be able to know that they feel comfortable doing that.
Yes.
And it's also really fun to model to them, like, this is really what our relationship has evolved.
Yes.
And it's not just static. And, we're not going down without a fight. We're having fun. And we're having a great time.
Yeah.
And that's, don't feel like, you don't feel like this is it.
Right. That if you hit a stumbling block, doesn't mean that's it. That you can evolve and you can bring that spark back in your 50s and beyond. And it's just a matter of acknowledging and showing grace for yourself to say, you know what, I do desire more, or I want to desire more. I want more intimacy, because the more intimate you are with your partner, the closer you connect with them and the more intense your connection is.
Yeah.
And it's just been phenomenal for us.
Well, and to kind of take that a little bit further, I think that for us on our journey, once we really started walking every day for an hour, and we do about 4 miles a day. And it's great because you really it's a very unplugged time for us. So obviously we have our phones with us, but you really can't walk and be on your phone. I mean, you can.
We're present with each other.
You walk into the street or hit trees. Don't walk and be on your phone. It's a great way to get run over by a car. So for us, that was after we had done our hormones and sort of relit that sexual desire, we had time as well together that we could talk about that. And I think one of the things that is really not done, or is maybe in that same taboo category, is everybody has fantasies. I think as you age, when we were younger, you would think like you would have like a fleeting, like, that would be fun.
Right.
Like a dirty thought, or you'd have a fantasy and you'd be like, I can't share that with my wife. Like that's not cool, or like people will think that that's like nobody else has these kind of thoughts.
Right. Society tells us or teaches us that that's wrong or that's perverted, that you have this crazy thought, this desire, this, this whatever.
Yeah. And maybe it's just because of, the world we grew up in, or, we are old enough to be pre-internet. So it's like, you couldn't just Google your desire and be like, oh, everybody's doing that.
Yeah. So right? You'd have to go buy a magazine.
You'd have to go into a store and buy a magazine, or go rent a porn or something like that. It's like, like, I know I'm going to see my third grade teacher when I walk into the porn.
Oh my gosh.
To rent a porn.
Oh my gosh.
So, awful. But I think our time together and really being able to talk about that, we had reignited our sort of intimacy and our sex drive came back. It didn't come back. It just went to 11.
Oh, I found mine.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, I have this thing.
I think you brought it up first.
Oh, I'm 100% always the initiator. Like, it would be fun. And that's an interesting thing to do. And I think it's interesting because when we were younger, to talk about a fantasy I couldn't have done it. Would have been far too uncomfortable.
That would not even be on my grid to do that, because in my head, growing up, I would read, teenage, romance novels, trashy novels or whatever. And, you get, little tingles, whatever. But then as I get older, I was super uber shy and didn't date really. And then I met you and it was game on. But then as we got married and we're in our early careers and starting to have children, the society around me, I'll speak for myself, is telling me I'm a young married woman, happily married woman, starting to have kids. I shouldn't be having these thoughts or these, whatever, which I never really did a lot except for in the books. And I remember the first time that you brought up fantasies and you had shared one of yours. This was, in our 50s, and you asked me what are some of my fantasies, and I'm like, I have no idea, because I never fully allowed myself to have that, because I was never really given permission or told that it's totally normal for a young woman in her 20s and 30s to have fantasies. I was never that. I was never understood that. And so therefore I really didn't have fantasies.
Yeah.
And
well, you had
struggle.
found your Prince Charming, and
I
there
did
was
find my Prince Charming.
There's really no reason for more.
Right.
So,
okay.
But our little walks started to get pretty spicy.
They got pretty spicy because as you would share, and then I was like, really? He'd share with me different,
but not really in like a holy.
No, like, is that something that you're interested in, or you want to see, or whatever? And I mean, just for validation, not like, like I wasn't appalled or anything. I was like, well, that's interesting now, isn't it? And I would just,
and for the record, it wasn't anything like, there's this goat I've been eyeballing. No. It was pretty tame stuff. It was pretty tame.
So it was pretty.
It's gotten wilder over time, but I mean, pretty tame at the time. So, but for a guy to be able to sort of share those type of fantasies, and it you don't want to get laughed at. You don't want your wife to be like, "What are you like? You're a perv," like, and so having some groundwork and laying some groundwork, no pun intended, but like laying some groundwork on like, hey, how do we share? And there's some great resources out there. How do you share intimate moments, intimate things, fantasies, and there's tons of books. You can Google that, like, and there's tons of good ways to do that. And I think it doesn't have to be fantasies. It can just be like my inner desires of like, hey, I love my job, but I would a lot of people get stuck with like careers, or maybe it's, it can be as simple as, dressing more revealing or kind of, have you ever thought about being nude somewhere, like in public or whatever? I mean, just, go to
a
nude beach or
something like that. Yeah. But I think it's really important too, that as you have these beginning conversations, because I am speaking from experience, to really have to talk these through and really affirm each other, and that it's not that you're into them less, that you have these fantasies because you're into your partner less.
Right.
I think that that's really important to talk and share and express repeatedly, I think, and to affirm, whether it's with touch or words of affirmation or however you and your partner work best. Yeah. Just to solidify that it's not saying that you're less to me, but just because I have these fantasies and that now I want to share them with you. Right. I think that's really, really important, because that I had to have that conversation with you several times. Why do you think that? Or why do you want to have that? Is there something that I'm doing wrong, or that, and you were great about saying, no, it's nothing to do with what you are doing or not doing that's not meeting your needs. Right. It's something that is just a drive inside that you want to try or have thought about, or interested in.
And it's a, talking about how do you rekindle that spark. I mean, it's a great way to rekindle that spark, and trying to just talk more about all the things that are there. I think what can be difficult, and I think the reason why a lot of marriages struggle or fail as we get into this stage of the sort of empty nest plus 50, is that one spouse or the other doesn't feel like they have any latitude to ever share those intimate, those fantasies,
those personal,
and oftentimes they'll go outside of the marriage to fulfill those fantasies. And that, I think, starts on a spiral that you can, it takes a lot to recover from.
It's a slippery slope.
So, if we're going to explore fantasies, I'd much rather do it with my spouse, rather do it with my wife than go out into the big bad world and try and find somebody to do that with me.
And, you have to have that shared safety. You really do.
And not to, sometimes it's just like, it may be not something you're ever going to act on, but it's fun to share that.
It's super hot to share.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that is interesting is that I think once I shared what some of my fantasies were, it sort of ignited for you, like, well, I've always wanted this.
Once you started sharing with me, I was able to say, well, if he's able to have them, then why not me? And then once I asked you, and you still ask me sometimes, well, what are you fantasizing about? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, I got to start working on that again. But
it's you gave permission.
You gave me, not permission in the sense of, a dominance kind of a.
No, but I want to know. I want you to share those with me.
Yeah, and that was very freeing. Yeah. Very freeing. Once I heard him say, no, I would really like to know. And that was just mind-blowing to me. That I was being given permission or being, encouraged by my spouse of, 30 plus years, that would be a turn on for him. And that was just, it was so freeing. And I love it. I loved it.
Yeah. And so let's talk about some things and some ways that you can kind of get out of the box.
Yeah.
So first one is just get out of your bedroom. Go. Yeah. If you really want to, we got the place to ourselves now. So it's like, go out and have some, explore your home. Yeah. That's a great way to start. And it's like, it can be hot. Yeah. A lot of times hey, lay it out a little bit, play out the fantasy, send a text, tech pictures are nice. You want to get the ball rolling. Snap a pic,
Right. That's a legit thing. That's legit.
Then
there's ways to go about it that are a little bit safer than
Be careful. Don't send them to your kids. We have never done that, for the record, but that's a great way. And to go beyond that is get out of your house. Go, you can go on sexy vacations, go to hotels. There's lots of things you can do. I was overhearing a conversation in the gym yesterday. A woman was talking to her trainer. Apparently trainers are like therapists, and they people tell them everything.
They hear everything.
And she was telling her trainer, like, hey, you should go to a hot springs. We have a ton of them around here. And
she was.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I've never been, but I feel like I'd want to go. I wouldn't want to go by myself. I'd want to go with a girlfriend or like a getaway. And she goes, oh, there's a ton of clothing optional ones around. And I was like, and then I'm really leaning in. Right. I'm like, okay.
I bet you are.
And he was sort of like, what? Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of clothing optional. There's a lot of clothing optional stuff around everywhere, which was like, I don't know, we never got the memo on that one.
No, we never did.
But it's like, but just going to a hotel, going to plan a sexy evening,
Yeah.
So you don't have to go far. You can go to a hotel in your own city.
Right.
But it is really nice to like jump on a plane and plan, do the legwork. We're going to go to, we're going to go to this sexy dinner club, and then we're going to, have a great time at a hotel.
For the weekend or something.
Buy some lingerie and
super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
spice it up.
Give yourself permission to spice that stuff up.
Yeah. Doesn't always have to be in your bedroom, in your bed.
Well, and I think that
under the covers.
It can be great in your bed and in your bedroom under the covers.
Oh yeah.
But mix it up. If you have the opportunity now, go out and have sex in the world.
Yeah.
So and we would love, again, we love the feedback from our folks. So I mean, what was the thing? What what are you guys doing out there to spice it up? But also, how did you, if you were started sharing your fantasies, like what was we don't necessarily need to know your fantasies, but you know, we could use all the material we could get. But yeah, no, like what was what did you use to keep it safe?
And how did the conversation go? How was it initiated, and how did it flow, and how did it bring you guys closer?
Yeah. And then probably the next thing would be toys.
Right. Right. It's interesting because I have, go ahead.
No, you're please.
I have a friend. I asked one time, I said, so do you and your husband, do you guys ever use any toys? And her immediate response was, oh no, I don't need any toys. And I was like, she just totally shut that down. I'm like, oh, okay. But then I got to think about it more, and I thought, you know what? Just like children, just like young children, do they need toys? No, 100% no. They are absolutely wants. They're for fun, right? No child needs a toy. So then therefore, you know, they want a toy. So it's a totally different mindset of looking at toys, intimacy toys, as a want. They're fun. They're for pleasure. So why not? I mean, for myself, I've, you know, some people need them for stimulation purposes.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine too, but they can just be as much fun.
Well,
100%.
And there's a whole world of toys. There's like Amazon. You can get just about anything you want.
Right.
And it gets delivered the next day.
Right.
But, you know, they're not all great.
No, they're not.
We've probably thrown away way more than we ever have used.
Sure.
But it's a fun little like, hey, I bought you a toy.
And you know, to be honest, you've really done that way early on in our relationship. You've always been the one to say, hey, I have a surprise. And that's where you were way more comfortable with sexuality and intimacy way earlier than I ever was. I would never think, way back then, I would never think, oh, bring a toy into our bed, for a better phrase. But you brought something in, and it was game on. I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. This is totally fine. And it's something that we enjoy together. And I, you know, physiologically, it works for me way better than no toy at all. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. We've tried a lot.
We have.
We've invested heavily in the toy market.
Yes, we have.
But it's fun. I mean, it's super fun to be able to have those as a bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also there are, aside from toys, which, we love some
toys, meaning like vibrators or dildos is what you're referring to as toys. That's what we were talking about earlier. But there's more elaborate toys.
Yeah, there's stuff still.
Sure.
I'm not sure how. I'm going to need a diagram for that one. So,
flannel board.
But the other thing is, as we age, comfort is important. Things don't.
Sure.
You have to.
Well, yeah, you have to address your mobility.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of wedges and chairs and swings
and
all kinds of
stuff.
Gizmos, which we haven't really tried a lot of those, but I do feel like as you do get older, there's no reason why you shouldn't be looking at ways, if you have back issues or mobility issues, like go talk to go to a place that has that, or just Google it. Like put in, hey, this is what my issue is, and how do I address it, to not be in pain when we're having sex.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and I also feel like, we should talk about as we age, there's other issues that come up as well. ED for men is a big deal. I think if you've gotten into your late 50s or 60s and you haven't experimented with Viagra and Cialis and things that can kind of help throw a little gas on the fire and get things going, you should. I talked to my doctor and I'm like, hey, I'd like to try this. And he's like, yeah, he gave me a prescription for both. He's like, try them both. Tell me what you think. And it's not something we use all the time, but there are times when it's like, gives you a nice little bump. And I think for females, there's a lot of stuff that he needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, there's vaginal creams because as you age, you're going through menopause, you're going to experience like vaginal dryness, etc. And there are creams and devices, lubricants that can help alleviate some of that. So sex is still enjoyable, or even more enjoyable.
Yeah. So talk to your doctor, talk to your specialist, Google stuff. If you, I'm always shocked when it's like, man, I'm not sure about this. And then you Google it and you're like, damn, like there's a lot of good info here. I mean, we do have the benefit of the internet now to sort of teach us those things. Yeah. And I think that's important. So don't be afraid to, Google it, fight to keep your sex life and your intimacy and everything
absolutely
working as long as you possibly can,
and enjoyable as long as possible, and just spiced up. And there's no reason why you can't have the best sex of your life with your partner in your 50s. It's just, we are experiencing that, and there's no way I'm going back.
No,
there's no way.
And I think for guys too is one other thing I just thought about with ED as well too is like you can go all the way up to and including like putting hardware in your penis that helps it work no matter what.
Right. And continue to have those relations.
Yeah. And that's great. It's great to know like you got more arrows in your quiver. Don't feel like, hey, it's just not working anymore. We're done.
Right. Even after like surgeries, even after like prostate
there are surgeries you can do. Prostate surgery is a real thing. We have had several friends who have had to have, whether it's cancer or possibly tumors, and have had to have have lost some ability due to it. Obviously cancer comes first. You want to correct it and take care of those things. Also diet, exercise, making sure, we actually, I would love to talk with somebody about, for women, Kegel exercises, but for men as well. Pelvic floor, there is an unending amount of information out there about sexual health. And there are people who have sex well into their 70s, 80s, 90s. Yeah. Just got to take care of things and make sure they keep working, but there's no reason why you can't stop. I think men struggle with that more than women do.
I wouldn't say that necessarily. I would say each struggle in their own right, in their own way. I think women do struggle with dryness and lack of sensitivity and just it not being enjoyable. And I think there's ways to counter that with either medications, creams, hormone balance. I know that once I started on my hormones, I was I needed way less lubrication. Yeah. And it was a turning point. So there's definitely options out there for both men and women to continue having a wonderful sex life, or even to build on their current sex life now and to make it that much better.
Yeah. And I think lastly, I believe, and we have found this with certain friends, talk to your friends about this. Talk to people, like we talk to people. There are intimacy coaches. Yep. You can talk to friends about it. Mm-hmm. You can talk to each other about it and try and figure that out and try and figure out what we can do to kind of increase the spark or increase the heat a little bit. And it does sort of snowball. Getting your hormones right. I know I say it all the time, but we
do say it all the time, but it is our very first pillar that we always tell people that we work with, our friends. Yeah. That it has to be, you have to check those. You have to check those because those truly are the building block to everything else moving forward in your 50s, if not earlier in your 40s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It will definitely start things. It'll start the ball rolling.
Yeah, it will.
And you'll do that. And once you do that, everything else sort of all of a sudden comes into play. Yeah. We haven't experienced this, but I do want to make sure we understand too, if one person gets hormone, I think a lot of times what happens is males, they'll start to get their testosterone will go down. They'll go in and they'll go to a low T center, or they'll talk to their doctor, and they'll either give them testosterone shots or pellets. And the wife is like, well, I'm not, I don't need that. Yeah. And you get this imbalance. And I think it happens more with guys, where all of a sudden they're on, and the wife's not at that spot anymore. And
that could be an issue.
He'll go outside the marriage. He'll go out and do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking like a 20-year-old
again.
Sure. So you really, I would strongly encourage you guys to do this together. Figure your hormones out together. Do your pellets or shots or whatever you're going to do,
or creams
together. Because otherwise, if you get one partner, and this could not necessarily men, you could be a female goes out and it's just like, oh yeah, your estrogen and your testosterone, everything's low. We're going to dose you up. Actually, that's what happened to us. When you went and got yours fixed initially, and it was like within a month, you were a different woman. I was like, hey, you're going to hurt me. Like what happened to you? Yeah. And then so I contacted your doctor and said, hey, whatever you did to her, like, I got to give me some, because
you asked for a large.
I know, I need a large. I'm drowning here. Yeah. Like, you got to help me out, doc. Yeah. And so fortunately he did. And he's like, he tested mine, and he's like, oh yeah, you're low too. Yeah. And then it was right. It was game on. So don't feel like either one of you should just go separately and independently. Yeah. Make it a project. We have a couple that we great friends who we've been counseling and helping. They went and did it together. I mean, they could have been divorced right now. Yeah. Fast forward a year and now they're living their best lives right now, because they went out and did it together. Yeah. So, I think don't just one or the other do it. No. So. Right. Okay.
Wow, that was a lot.
That was a lot of sharing.
That was a lot of sharing. That was a lot of being vulnerable.
As we're going through this and talking, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm having a hard time finding like clips for this that are G-rated enough to put on Instagram.
No, see, that's the problem with this society's view of sex and intimacy, especially as you age. It's just, it has to be a talking point, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. Just find your people, find someone that you can talk to about this stuff, and
what's
move
crazy
forward.
Is like on my Instagram, I'll get scantily clad women shaking everything. Yeah. But we can't talk about dildos because it's taboo.
Right. With your partner. Yeah. Right.
On that note. Yeah. We appreciate you. We appreciate you listening to our show. We appreciate you listening to the podcast. We would love for you to give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe on YouTube, write us a review. We would love that as well. And we'd love to hear from you. So feel free anytime to reach out and send us a note. We love talking with our folks, and it really validates what we're doing here. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Go on out there and have an unconventional life.
Bye-bye. See you next time. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are our own and reflect our personal experiences and beliefs. We encourage listeners to take what resonates with them and to seek professional advice where needed, especially in matters related to health, fitness, relationships, and parenting. Our conversations are candid, unfiltered, and intended to inspire, but they may not be suitable for all audiences. Always remember, what works for us may not work for everyone, and your journey is uniquely your own.